Hello and welcome to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make this compact A-frame shelter. This is going to be perfect for a stealth shelter if you're trying to hide just that little bit more, as it's a lot smaller than the other A-frame shelter that I've got on my channel. You can see inside you've got enough room to lay down and put your things. Now my personal one is a little bit long. Ideally, it could be a little bit shorter, but you just have to go with what you've got, and I'm just using a very cheap tarp. So the items that you're going to need, of course, a tarp. I've got a 10 foot by 12 foot tarp. It was £16. I'm also going to use some cord, and this I got a roll of 100 meters for £10. And I'm also going to get some sticks. These are going to be for stakes, and I've also got a bigger stick to use as a mallet. Additionally, you could bring a knife just to sharpen up your sticks so you can easily get them in the ground, but it should be alright. So we're going to want to look for an area in between two trees. As you can see, this is my little area, and this should be perfect. It's nice and flat in between, and we can use the trees for our ridgeline. I'm going to just clear the area, making sure there's going to be no sticks going to be able to rip our tarp. Just making sure it's going to be nice and flat. Once I've done that, I can obviously roll out my tarp. Now, I'm not going to pin anything down yet. I'm simply going to use this as a measuring method for how high we need the ridge line. So I'm simply just going to open it up, lay it out flat, and I'm going to use the distance between the eyelets to measure out a piece of cordage, and that's how high we're going to need the string line. One thing I do regret doing, so you can see now I'm about to get the measurement. But as I was about to say, one thing I regret doing is doing it exactly that length. I wish I'd slightly done it higher, maybe an inch and a half higher. That way everything would have been a lot tighter and it didn't go down as much, because even though I had this super tight, yeah, it still managed to sag down a little bit. But you can see I'm just using the eyelets to give myself a rough measurement of rope, and that is exactly how high I'm going to put it from the ground on the tree. A nice little technique. Like I said, ideally you want to go a little bit more higher, around about an inch. As soon as you've got your measurement, you are good to start tying it on the tree. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. For the first knot, I'm simply doing just a standard double knot, making sure it is super tight and not going to come undone. As long as it don't come undone from this side, you should be good. Alternatively, you could use a noose knot. It is entirely up to you. I'm just making things nice and simple. At this point, I can pull the cordage to the other tree. Again, I'm going to want to make sure that this ridge line is going to be really tight, or we're going to have a lot of saggage, and that is something I experience in this build. However, I do show a little technique to fix that without having to completely take it down. So you can see on the other side, when I get there, I'm simply, instead of knotting it, I'm wrapping it around the tree. I like to do 3 wraps around the tree, making sure it is extremely tight. That way, yeah, you always get a reasonably tight ridge line. So here I am, just wrapping it around a few more times. Again, make sure it is super tight. And when you've wrapped it around, you can just tie it off with, again, another knot. Just a basic knot if you really want. It's entirely up to you. So you can see here, I'm more than happy that it's been tied around enough times. So I'm just going to get my knife out, cut it off, and then I can use this piece for future. So there we go. It did come loose a little bit, so I had to redo it. Not to worry. And at this point, yep, once you've got it round, just tie it off. And you should have a pretty tight ridge line. Again, I really wish I'd have done mine an inch higher. But after you've put it up, you should have something that looks a little bit like this. Now we've got a very important part. We're going to want to move the tarp. So the eyelets, the first 2 eyelets on the tarp right here, you'll see me pointing them. So these 2 right here. We want to make sure that the ridge line is directly in the middle. And we're going to want to do that both sides. And this bit is going to be our ground sheet. So we definitely want to make sure it is as much in the center as we can. Now it's a little bit hard to see because of the angle of the camera, but I couldn't get it directly over the ridgeline. But I'm just making sure everything's flat, and it is directly in the middle of those two eyelets. So you can see here, I get a finger on each eyelet and then simply bring it up. The closer to the center they're going to be, the better. And once you're fairly satisfied that you have got it central, those two eyelets central to the ridgeline, you can go ahead and peg in each one of the corners. You can see I'm using just sticks and a mallet, which is also a stick. I'm just wrapping it around. I'm not going through the actual eyelets of this tarp because it might break it. So I'm just using a little bit of rope and made my own little eyelets. But yeah, I'm going to go around all four corners, as you can see. And I'm going to hammer the stakes in and basically just wrap them around so it's nice and tight and they're not going to come loose. So here's number 3. And last but no means least, we got number 4. Just a little bit in the sunlight. And you can see, again, I'm simply just tying it round instead of doing any kind of knot. This way it's super tight and it won't come loose. And then as soon as you've tied it round enough, just knot it. At this stage, you are now ready to throw the top over your ridgeline. So this is kind of where I start realizing that I could have gone a little bit higher on my ridgeline. However, at least, I mean, I learned that so I could tell you guys the information. And when I set this up, when I go for a camp, I'm definitely going to be doing it higher. So I'm also tying the center eyelets to the ridgeline. This is just in case of any strong winds or anything like that. This is optional. You don't have to do this, but it does make it a little bit stronger. At this point, I'm going to start pegging down the bottoms of the tarp, as you can see. Now, you could definitely use the same pegs, but just to make it a little bit stronger, so there's not much pulling on that first peg, I decided to use other pegs. So I've done the front, now I'm going to do the back, and then I can do the center. And in the center, I actually choose to go through the actual eyelet holes rather than having rope, purely for the fact I just don't have any rope there. You could also go through the bottom ones of the bottom ground sheet. They will line up perfectly. However, because mine wasn't as tight as I wanted it to be, I just brought it slightly further forward. Ideally, I mean, yeah, you could go through those eyelets at the bottom ground sheet. So, to fix the problem of my sagging ridgeline, I'm simply going to get a stick and put it on one side of the ridgeline, giving myself enough room to actually get into the shelter. I'm also going to do the exact same on the back. And what this will do is just hold it up a little bit. And we should be okay from here. Now, you wouldn't really need to do this if you just slightly done your ridgeline a little higher. But you can see now I'm just making a few adjustments to the pegs. And overall, it makes it a lot better. A lot tighter. And it's not all sagging everywhere. So, initially, it looked like this. All saggy and droopy. And then we took it to this. So, just with a few adjustments, you can really make it a lot better. And there we go. That is the top complete. I'm going to go inside right now. Again, it is kind of saggy inside. But that would all be fixed with a tightened up ridgeline. Although, for what it's worth, if I was rushing and this is how it turned out, this would easily be enough room to sleep in and shelter all of my equipment. So overall, I would say this is a fairly quick and easy build. It is way more compact than the other A-frame shelter I've got on my channel. And you can see here, it is way more camouflaged as well. It's not raised up like the other one. It's really low to the ground. And to top it off, we have got 3 sides of cover, covering us from the rain and the elements. So, I do hope this helps you out. I will catch you guys on the next one.